Welcome to Cyber-Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. My name's Josh, and today I'm joined by Bob, Matthew, and Heather. We're continuing our discussion from last week on Avengers, Age of Ultron. When we last left off, we were just starting to talk about the romance between Black Widow and the Incredible Hulk. If you haven't already done so, please hit like and subscribe. We could really use it. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah. Speaking of the party scene, I know there's been a lot of talk, especially up to Endgame, about Captain America lifting the hammer with a whole hammer scene. Matthew's shaking his head. I mean, I can't not at least bring it up. We don't have to touch on it.
I love that scene, to be honest.
Yes.
I love the party scene. I hate that they retconned it. Like, oh, he could always lift the hammer. What are you talking about? He was just
They never
nice.
said that.
They did. The Russo brothers, I'm pretty sure, strictly came out and said, oh, he could have always lifted the hammer. He just chose not to. And I hate that they did that, because then it's I don't know. They're trying to make Captain America more cool. And I'm like, it's obvious he struggled with it in the movie. I don't know.
I always saw, I remember before Endgame came out, I had already had the theory, and I remember asking on Facebook a bunch of my friends, do you think that Steve really couldn't lift the hammer more than a couple of centimeters? Or do you think that he realized he could move it and he stopped because he didn't want to hurt Thor's feelings? And my whole group of friends, I got more responses than I've ever gotten, because no one ever responds to me on Facebook. No one likes me. But I got a whole bunch of responses. Stop rolling your eyes. I got a whole bunch of responses, like almost 100 on oh, that would be so cool. That makes perfect sense. So
I'm not saying.
No, I think it makes perfect sense that he hadn't fully evolved to be worthy enough. But that's my own take. I've never heard the extra comments that might have been said around the movie or something. I enjoyed the scene for what it was, and it was. And you saw that look in Thor's face when the hammer twitched a little, and I just love it for what it was, and my own personal theory is he wasn't worthy yet.
And I believe that he was, and that he
the directors could say whatever they want afterwards. It could be we're talking. They could see all the online stuff and then be like, yeah, he could lift it. He just didn't want to, and confirm rumors. I mean, it's all speculative to me stuff. But
yeah, I mean, it's really, you got to see what you want to see as a fan or as an audience member. You can interpret it the way you want. I choose to see it that Steve knew this was going to be, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say traumatizing, because that's a bit much, but he knew it would affect Thor adversely if he lifted the hammer. So he chose not to. I mean, he saw the face Thor made when the hammer started to move. He was shocked. I could see Steve being like, no, I'm not lifting it. As Natasha said, that's not an answer. That's not a question I need answered. Something that would go through Steve's mind. And I'm sure he would say the same thing.
Yeah, no. But I mean, but later on, we get Vision just handing it to Thor.
Steve would think. Well, I think Steve would think he's not worthy just because he always kind of diminishes himself just a little bit.
But Steve's not worthy at this point. I don't think he's worthy.
Well, I don't think he is too. But I mean, he would never be conceited enough to think he is.
No,
I guess.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't think that he would think that he was. I thought that he would be able to lift the hammer, because I thought he was worthy.
Whereas Black Widow, I'm not even going to bother trying. Yeah, not worth it. I know I'm not.
Although I still love the line that Tony says that still cracks me up when he asks Thor, if I lift the hammer, I'm in charge of, what is it? I'm in charge of Asgard. And then he's like, I'm going to reinstitute Prima Nocta.
Oh gosh.
That was a slimy line. I didn't like that.
Yeah, that felt a little. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
It's not that I
glad
think
that's
it's
something
good.
that would go over the heads of all the, preteens watching.
I'm
the
not
movie,
saying
so.
that it's a good thing. I'm saying it's a Tony thing. That's exactly the type of thing I would expect Tony to say.
Right.
I don't know.
So-
Not at this point. He's evolved from a little bit of that over the
I
course
don't
of
know
the
if
other
he has.
movies.
He still maintains his toniness. I wanted to talk about Vision because Vision's created in this movie. He goes on to be in other stuff, obviously, the WandaVision TV show, which was fantastic.
Loved it.
But Vision, again, Vision introduces a whole another philosophical aspect. I mean, he's the anti-Ultron in a way. So
It was nice seeing Paul Bettany getting to act on screen
exactly,
rather than just
instead
being
of
the voice
Jarvis.
of Jarvis.
Yeah.
I was really excited when they brought Vision into the MCU. I had, if anybody remembers, any listeners remember, the old Mighty Beans toys. I had a lot of Marvel Mighty Beans, and I had a Vision one, and I thought it was one of the coolest looking Mighty Beans. And I was like, why haven't we seen this guy on screen yet? And here he is, and I love his introduction. I thought his character design was really excellent because it's kind of a weird character design when you think about it. He's got a giant gem on his forehead. I thought they assimilated it really well into a realistic character design. Again, opposite of Ultron, I think he's one of the best written characters in the MCU, at least in this movie. I think he's the best written character in this, or the second best written character in this movie.
The only problem I have with Vision at all, and this isn't something that comes up in this movie, it came up later, is just the fact that he's so underutilized. He shows up in 3 movies. He's in this, he's in Civil War, and then he's killed in Infinity War. He does appear in WandaVision, but that's not really him. That's Wanda's conjuration of him.
Right. Yeah, he's underutilized. But again, he's pretty overpowered as a character. Like, it'd be hard to balance a movie with somebody who has a literal Infinity Stone in their forehead.
That's true.
Opposite of just humans,
Yeah, no, I agree. And I know why they did it, but it still kind of is disappointing because I would have liked to see more Vision. He is a major character in the comics.
Yeah.
And there's another major character, just on a side note, something that I had to make note of on the bad side is that there's another major character that they killed off in this movie, and it kind of shocked me, and that's Strucken. He's a major villain in the comics, the head of Hydra, of all of Hydra. And other than his appearance at the end of Winter Soldier and a few mentions of him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he's in this movie and he's killed by Ultron. And he's like virtually a nothing character in this movie.
But for the sake of the MCU, I think that's fine. Again, we've talked about sideline characters before.
Yeah, it just shocked me that they would take a character that was so important to the comics and kill him off screen.
But we were already moving towards the Infinity Stones, and Hydra was resolved in Winter Soldier.
I will say this about Vision is, like, I thought he was like pretty powerful and stuff in this one, and it's like I feel like they kind of nerf him after this. He gets pretty nerfed, and then it's like I know he's he ends up having a relationship with Wanda and all that other stuff, but it's like where was the Vision in this movie in future movies? It's like he wasn't as powerful and all this other stuff.
Well,
it just seems really weird.
I don't know. He seemed pretty powerful in Civil War.
Yeah.
The only thing that didn't make sense in Civil War is him not being able to control his beams. Him accidentally hitting Rhodey. Like, that doesn't seem like something Vision would do, even if he was a little bit distracted by Wanda.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it just seems like, it seems kind of like they that he was nerfed. So
his conversation with Ultron at the end of the film is super memorable, and I think about it all. Oh yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah.
Heather, any thoughts on Vision or any of the other characters? No.
Nothing to say.
I wanted to talk a little bit too about, so we talked about how this phase 2 was, everybody got their movie and it was kind of darker and diving deeper into psyches and traumas and all that other stuff. And Hawkeye's never, he had a TV show later, but up to this point, but we get Hawkeye's farm And I thought that was really interesting.
I loved how that came out of nowhere. I did like that. Yeah.
I thought that was really good. And I mean, after that scene, and you see, what he's truly fighting for, and he's got, and Tony's like, those are little agents, and all that other stuff, and it's like, what? He has a house and all that other stuff, and it's Aunt Nat, like, Aunt Black Widow, and stuff like that. Is Hawkeye the most grounded? Is it
Wasn't
kind
he
of
always?
a sense of? I mean, yeah, I guess, but I'm just saying, like, does that scene then give a new angle to the Avengers on why they're doing what they do? I mean, seeing this kind of like normal life, normal family type of thing.
I think this, I guess we'll call it Act 2 of the movie, after all the chaos and the mind control sequence. I feel like this is where the movie loses direction, but I do like this scene. I feel like it tries to pack in a lot with the Hawkeye's house scene. Thor goes off on his side mission. Everybody's recovering from their mind control vision from Wanda. You set up the Infinity Stones with Thor's side mission during this part of the movie. I do think it adds a level of groundedness, and I think I thought this movie in general made Hawkeye really cool. We didn't really get to see a whole lot in Avengers 1 like we did, but I feel like he was way cooler in this movie, and he's self-aware. Like, he speaks to Wanda. He's like, the city's flying, we're fighting robots, and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes any sense. And
that was awesome.
I do like that. I thought it was odd that they try and posture him as the leader of the group in Civil War. They say that he like leads the Avengers. I don't know if I'm misunderstanding that line, but
in the comic book, he was the leader.
Which doesn't make sense, but it's fine. But I like the farm scene, even if it feels like the movie's trying to do too much at once with this settling down scene.
I like that he seems to be the most atypical of the superheroes. Like, it's just a very good skill with bow and arrow, versus, he doesn't have some sort
he doesn't have
genetic mutation. He doesn't have, like things like that, and the fact that Natasha is the close friend. To me, there's a reason for that. It's because it's not like she has superpowers. She was just trained in a very strict way to be a particular type of person. But unlike the other superheroes in Marvel that have some sort of fantastical thing going on, but I love that it brought it back to kind of a realism, I guess. Like, they're people. It's not just the superhero nature. They're people as well, and I think that also played well as far as the looking at Sokovia not just as this another setting. Like, I think you think of it as this is a city full of people. To me, it made a little bit of a connection there. I don't know, if that's a strong viewpoint that others pick up on, but making it where, blowing up the city is not just, the background, it makes you think about the people that are in that city a little bit by focusing on Clint's family as well.
Right.
Yeah. And also the kid and his mother in the city.
Yeah,
I think it's the kid and his mother.
Yeah, Costa. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the big battle scene at the end, we got the big destruction of Sokovia, which then goes forward into Civil War with the Sokovia Accords and all that other stuff. The amount of people that becomes, again, in Civil War, Zemo's driving force because he was there in Sokovia. And then that's, Nick Fury shows up, to get everybody off of this thing, but is what did we think about the end and kind of the theme that we kind of put together, which is, Ultron's trying to cause, an extinction level event and set back humanity because he sees them as the main problem rather than, I see the suit of armor around the world, and Ultron's like, I see humans as the problem. you know,
even though
Vision,
it's weird that Ultron, when Wanda finally looks into his mind, when he starts to have a real mind, and she can read him, she sees what his intent is, and he says, like, humans will be given every chance. Like, he's still lying to her, I guess, because if he was planning an extinction level event, he's not planning on giving humans a chance to evolve. He says he is, but he's not. I just thought that was, I guess that's super villainy of him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he makes that line like, well, this is the perfect time to tell you my super evil plan. So obviously he's not in the business of telling the truth.
Right.
I like the final fight of this movie. It feels a little repetitive from the first movie. It's a giant army against one main villain, except the main villain's in control of all the other little army henchmen this time. So felt a little repetitive, but the flying cities was cool. It was a cool visual.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of, like, the fight itself is fine, except that the little robots, the Legionnaires that Ultron is controlling, they have the same problem as I had with the battle droids in the prequels of Star Wars. And George Lucas actually said he wanted the Jedi to be able to cut through them like butter. And I remember thinking, yeah, lots of conflict there when the enemy is like butter. That there's no conflict. And that's kind of how it was here watching the Avengers. None of those Legionnaires posed any threat. So it was kind of like going through the motions. I still
it's
enjoyed
just cannon fodder to get in the way. Yeah.
Yeah. I still enjoy it because I enjoy the Avengers, but it does take some of the conflict away when you know that there's no match. The robot just gets decimated in seconds.
Well, I know, but the point is, keep throwing these, throwaway robots at them, eventually.
Yeah, just to slow them
wears
down.
them down, to slow them down. Yeah.
Well, I think that the other thing
we all know Ultron was the one that they were, trying to get to, and these were just in the way.
Well, he also needed time to build that engine to shoot the city down into the earth.
Right, but I think that the other thing you need to consider here is that if it was just Ultron and his Legionnaires on there, and there was no civilians, it would have been a much different fight. So I think the sense of urgency still mattered because they're like, we got to evacuate the city. Like, we have to save these people.
Yeah.
Hence, Hawkeye about to take all the bullets by blocking that kid. Quicksilver ends up taking, you didn't see that one coming, did you? And then, right. And then Wanda gets her moment. We also get the, Hawkeye talking to Wanda, like, as you mentioned, like, I'm a guy with a bow. He's like, if you go out that door, you're an Avenger, So it's like pivotal moments there of.
I'm not complaining. I just don't see the robots, the Legionnaires, as a threat, and
they were a threat to the people.
They weren't They weren't a threat to the Avengers themselves. They were a threat to the people, and they were a means of buying time so Ultron could,
Right. Yeah. I want to bring up a fun fact here. Matthew already knows probably what I'm going to bring up. So remember so Jarvis is gone and he's got to find a new chip, right? And he's digging through the chips to put Friday in. If you look, so backstory, you guys have all seen Big Hero 6, right? The Disney animated movie. That's actually a Marvel comic. You got to watch it. It's really good. Baymax, the big pluffy white guy.
I know
made
about
a series
it.
on
I haven't actually watched it, but I know.
So there's a chip. So when Tony's digging through the chip, Baymax's chip is in the pile. So they actually connect Big Hero 6, which is a Marvel comic book. It was interesting how they did that as a Walt Disney, Pixar. I think
because they've been doing that for a while, throwing in little nods to characters that are, part of the Marvel universe, even though they're barely.
Yeah, but this makes it a direct tie. This makes it a direct tie-in. That
same thing with Howard the Duck appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but not the Howard the Duck that we had when it came out with Leah Thompson. That was all weird.
Not that. It's a new Howard the Duck, because that's not actually related.
But this is what I'm saying is it's like the same chip. It's not even just a representative chip. It has like the same handwriting and everything from the Big Hero 6 movie in the background. So again, just fun fact.
I didn't know that, but that's cool. I just looked it up. And just to be clear, it's not, it doesn't say Baymax on it. It says Tadashi.
Well, I know because Baymax's chip said Tadashi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I do like the final fight a lot, though, even though it feels repetitive of the first movie. I don't have any issue with it. You definitely feel the urgency. There's a couple points where you almost feel like Ultron's going to win. And I do think there's some good character development for Hawkeye, even in these moments, as well as Wanda, considering she has bigger roles to play in the future of the MCU. I do find it odd that she kind of writes off Tony as well as everybody else. She's like, he doesn't understand the world between saving and destroying it. I think it's during the final fight of Sokovia. Either way, it doesn't make sense because Tony literally saves everybody every single time. And I find that to be odd that they would throw that line in there. And I know she has her trauma that she talks about where she looked at the Stark bomb for 2 days, wondering when it would go off. It just felt like an odd line to say, knowing that the audience knows that Tony saves everybody all the time. So I thought it was an entertaining fight. I do think Ultron's beat way too easily, considering they can't catch up to him the whole 2 hours and 12 minutes that this movie is, or however long it is. And then all of a sudden he's like, this is the best I can do. And it's an army of robots that they beat in 30 seconds. And then they kick his ass and it's done, and it just felt
the real, he loses the second Vision is able to cut off his access to the internet. He can't flee.
Yeah, but it felt like, as smart as he was, he would have figured out a workaround around that.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But it's also like, I know they were already working towards Thanos, so I can't fault them for that, but it just would have been nice not to kill off Ultron in this movie.
Yeah, he's backed up on a server somewhere.
Yeah, I hope.
I wouldn't be surprised because Age of Ultron in the comics was a big event, so I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back at some point.
I hope
I'm
so.
not being prophetic. Because I have no idea. But
James Spader's awesome.
He did a really good job.
Perfect choice.
And this was also the movie that first mentions Wakanda.
Yep, that was a good setup there.
Yeah. I didn't realize that until the rewatch too. Yeah.
And we get to see War Machine in an Avengers movie. I know we talked about that. But I just wanted to
And Falcon.
He's always missing.
And Falcon.
Falcon's in it for 2 seconds, and he should have been in the final fight, but he wasn't for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But and then and one other thing that I appreciate, I think a lot of people miss it when Tony is talking to Nick Fury in the barn, and he says, like, it's been a long day. And then he references Eugene O'Neill and says it's like a Eugene O'Neill type of long day or something like that. And I think a lot of people didn't get the reference. And I missed it the first time too. But Eugene O'Neill wrote a play called Long Day's Journey into Night, which is a 4-act tragedy that is just relentlessly depressing. So I don't know if a lot of people caught on that, but I appreciate that. I mean, it goes right into what we said already multiple times, that Phase 2 is the darkest era of Marvel.
I picked up on the line. I didn't know who Eugene O'Neill was when he said it, though.
Oh,
but
well, that's what he's
good
referring to. Yeah,
and knowing is half the battle.
If you want to be like, if you want to get through a grueling play, read Long Day's Journey into Night.
So, Avengers: Age of Ultron. What did we think? Is it aged better? Matthew mentioned he thought it's aged better.
I didn't get to mention the fact that I love Cap ripping the log in half. Just wanted to add that in.
At the farm scene. That is, yeah, that's kind of cool.
So that was,
I just remember being in the theater, and when he rips the log in half, and the whole audience in the theater was like, audible gasp. The women swooning, the men like, I can do
that. Yeah. Don't steal from my pile. Yeah.
So what do we think?
Go ahead. Say your line.
No, I wasn't going to say my line. I said, what do we think?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, my points there are most underrated scene. What's your best line? Most unnecessary subplot, plot, character who benefited most long term. Has this movie aged better or worse? Just my final question doesn't really matter. I don't think it was necessarily misunderstood. Maybe at the time it was misunderstood, but I don't think it is now. But anyway, just kind of final thoughts on the movie.
I think it's
How did the
aged-
movie touch you? How did it touch you?
I think it's aged better. Like I said at the top, I didn't like it when it came out. I still feel like this movie may have caused a little bit of superhero fatigue in some folks. It did in me a little bit. I still like this movie a lot more now. I don't know that I have a best line or an underrated scene, but I do think Thor's side mission could have been an end credit scene, like the end of Guardians 1 or Captain America 2 or somewhere else. I feel like that was kind of shoehorned in. I think this movie's flawed a little bit. I think, a lot of the MCU movies are flawed, but this one, you could still feel some of those flaws. And but I still like it. And I would still put it in the top 10 MCUs for me.
I like it a lot better. I like it a lot better now on the rewatch. I agree that there was a little the fatigue. It's like, oh, another Marvel movie. But I do like these big collaborative ones, the Avengers ones that brought so many characters together. I think it's hard to be as cohesive of a movie when you have so many characters and so many backgrounds and so many storylines going on. So that said, I think they did a little better job of it with the first big team up movie than this one. But I really like the villain. I really like the seriousness that this one brought compared to a little more of the comic book quippiness of the earlier Marvel movies. So I like this one. I like it better now than I did at the time, the first time I watched it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You guys keep mentioning superhero fatigue. And I think even at this time, we were still only getting like 2 Marvel movies a year or something like that. Like, it wasn't very much. Like now it's like there's 4 TV shows and 3 movies coming out. And it's like, and it's
definitely more fatigue now, absolutely. But I mean, Fast and Furious. I mean, how many times can you keep a theme alive? And so I think at that point it was like, there's another Marvel movie.
See, I'm apparently immune to it because I don't have superhero.
Apparently.
Yeah, I mean,
as long as they keep making them, there.
I mean, I think the only 2 movies that mattered that year for the MCU, because that Fantastic Four movie with all of them didn't count. It was only Avengers and Ant-Man is come out in 2015. So I just think it's interesting because we had a lot, but
it was still 2 a year that like we weren't getting that many superhero movies in the early, mid, and even late 2000s. Like it was still exciting when you were like, oh, we're getting another Spider-Man. Like it wasn't 2 Spider-Man movies in a year. I know it's not 2 Avengers movies in a year, but it was still like, okay, this is movie 9, 10 at this point, maybe even 11. And it's like, oh, it's another Avengers movie. Not that that's a bad thing and not that it's a bad movie. It was just like, okay, where are we?
What do we have now? We're approaching 35.
I think we're close to 40.
Possibly close to 40. Yeah.
But
I'm still there
plus
for
TV
it.
shows and stuff in this modern era.
Yeah.
Right?
But you also had DC throwing in a few movies here and there. You had the failed Fantastic Four movie that was so bad.
Yeah, I think the fact that there were like outside of Marvel, there were other superhero movies going on. I think that might be maybe a little more explanatory of that.
Yeah, that's true. That's
you're talking about. Like every movie was a superhero movie, and if superhero movies are not your thing, then you just didn't have much to watch in the theaters for a while. Is what it felt like. I guess. Yeah. Everything was superhero. It was centered around superheroes. And again, for me, not a comic reader, it's like DC, Marvel, like they're just all over the place and just they started to become a blur at some point in the course of all these movies. Yeah.
One thing that I forgot to mention, though, I think there might have been, I don't know if it's really a plot hole or not, but I thought it might be, was near the end, Thor tells Cap that 4 Infinity Stones have shown up in recent years, and that's not a coincidence. Except from their point of view, only 3 have, because they showed the Power Stone to us in his flashbacks, but they haven't seen the Power Stone. Thor hasn't either. Power Stone was at Guardians of the Galaxy, but they don't know the Guardians exist yet.
He saw it in his vision.
Yeah, I know, but he said that, 4 have appeared recently. I don't know if he's referring to his vision.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I didn't think about that.
So, did anybody watch the deleted scene with Thor in the cave?
I have seen it. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't. I
think talked a lot more about stones, and that maybe if they had included something of that, it might have made more sense when he says 4.
Maybe I need to rewatch that because it's been a while since I've seen it. I'll take a look for it. One last thing that I wonder, and this is something that maybe I should have said earlier, but I did say how Ultron in the comics was created by Hank Pym, not by Tony Stark. And the next movie that we talk about is going to be Ant-Man. I wonder if things might have been better off if they had released Ant-Man first and had made Ultron a product of Hank. If that might have been better, a combination creation of Hank Pym and Tony Stark that might have led it differently. I don't know.
It's
just something I was thinking.
But Michael Douglas plays an older Hank Pym. I don't know that Tony, not to say that Tony wouldn't, but it's like the Ant-Man movie focused on Scott Lang.
Yeah.
With a little bit of Hank. So.
Yeah. I just wonder because the very next movie is Ant-Man and Hank Pym is the main creator of Ultron in the comics.
Well,
right.
And they consider Ant-Man to be the end of the phase 2. Is
phase
that
2,
right?
Yeah, which I still
it would
don't
make
understand.
so much more sense if they had done it the other way around. Even if they only even if they glossed over that Hank Pym was involved in Ultron. I mean, yeah, I think it would have made so much more sense to have Ant-Man and then this culmination of everything. I think that would have made much more sense than saying Ant-Man's the end of a phase.
Yeah.
This was a culmination point of a movie. And so I don't follow the phase stuff, but that makes so much more sense.
Phase 1 and phase 3 make perfect sense. Phase 1 ends with the first Avengers movie. Phase 3 ends with Far From Home. And you might think it should have ended with Endgame, but Far From Home was a good epilogue. It deals with Peter dealing with the loss of Tony Stark. So, it did make sense as the end of it. But yeah, I didn't understand why phase 2 would end with Ant-Man of all characters.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting.
Something that we can talk about next week when we talk about Ant-Man, because that's the next movie coming up in our Avengers journey, our journey through the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I do want to thank Bob and Heather and Matt for joining me on this show. I also want to thank the audience. If you're listening, I really appreciate you listening, and I hope that you will subscribe and hit like and
share.
And feel free to leave and share it with all your friends and leave a comment. Tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and all of that stuff that we're supposed to say. So next week, like I said, we'll be talking about Ant-Man. In the meantime, as always, make tomorrow better than yesterday.